different at different occasions.
Yes, and the DRG code is actually the DRG codes. So, for example, if you have the weight of each DRG code is set based on the actual outcomes during the year before. So, for example, if you have, let's say, colonoscopies, then based on the actual cost of colonoscopies, you get the DRG code, which is set the year before, and then for the next year, that will be sort of used as an indication of what the colonoscopy will cost for the healthcare system. And then each and every colonoscopy may not cost exactly that. So some of these colonoscopies will cost more, will take more time in doing it. Some of these colonoscopies will be shorter, some will be longer, some will include some help or whatever. But it's sort of it gives an average cost for all colonoscopies, yeah.
Everything is calculated in US dollars.
Yes.
To
please the public.
The opponent is from the States. Is there, I mean, are we very influenced from this? I mean, how is healthcare economics? Is that too much influence from the States? Or is there any?
That's a very good question. And I think that with sort of the US healthcare system, I think that health economics and costs, they've been a bit earlier than us to sort of realize the importance of those aspects. And I think that in many scientific journals, they've also received more attention and more recognition. I think that's one of the reasons for why we converted it to USDs. And that most other studies who are in health economics are performed in the US. There's really lacking studies from Europe in general in health economics. And I think that just in order to sort of produce, I mean, we actually discussed for quite a bit if we should use Swedish currency is probably too small, but the corresponding option would be to present it in euros. And we discussed that for quite a while, but finally concluded that it was best to do it in USD to make it even more comparable to other studies in health economics, which has been performed in dollars. At some point, maybe there will be some kind of transition, but at this point, when like all the foundational work on health economic outcome studies has been in USDs and performed in the US, you sort of want to produce estimates that are comparable, so you can compare without making those conversions yourself, and it became the logic way to do it, simply, yeah. So it's a good question, and I try to, at least when I present these numbers in Sweden, so I presented the EOE numbers at Gastrodagarna, then I normally use the original costs in Swedish currency at least.
Thank you for a very nice presentation of both of you, and very nice question. And yes, I have some additional questions. In the beginning, you named the similarities between EOE and MC, but there was one more similarity which you a little bit named in the book. It is the discrepancy between the inflammation and symptoms. This is not a linear relationship,
yeah,
which is the same for both. And you treat both these conditions cortisol. But can you try to explain how cortisol is working on the symptoms? The inflammation will not disappear, but cortisol is working on the symptoms. So what is going on?
I mean, yes. So this is a very good question. This is a very good question. I think that there might be two different reasons for both diseases. So if we start with study 1, EOE, I think that steroids mainly have anti-inflammatory properties that are working. And as you mentioned, inflammation on endoscopy may not always be associated with symptoms. However, I know that I'm no expert in this specific field, but I know that there's a lot of ongoing discussions about the depth of the inflammation in EOE. So normally we only account for like very inflammation on the very surface of the mucosa, but it's more and more discussions about how does the inflammation and sort of the inflammatory response actually look like deeper in the tissue. And if I were to speculate, you could think that perhaps, in some cases you might have a normal looking mucosa, but there is actually inflammation deeper in the tissue that are not completely in remission that could respond to additional treatments. I think, that's at least a speculation, and Dylan will have to add something if you find something. Regarding microscopic colitis, I think that that's even more complex, because now there's sort of people consider that once you get the MC diagnosis, the histologic appearance is not associated with the symptoms. That's sort of the generally accepted belief, and I am not 100% sure about that, because let's say you have the same symptoms and you get a colonoscopy and you do a biopsy and you don't find any histologic changes, then you will not get the diagnosis of microscopic colitis. And I know that there is a high overlap between microscopic colitis and other functional bowel disorders, IBS and other things as well. So I think that this is a very tricky question, and I think that nowadays we don't do follow-up colonoscopies to actually measure the histologic remission when we try to manage this disease, but I'm not. So in cases where budesonide, there are cases that doesn't respond to budesonide, and I think that in those cases it would actually be valuable to do a colonoscopy, and if they don't have any histologic remission, I would suggest that you also try to think about the possibility that this could actually be a functional bowel disorder and treat them accordingly to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy for you.
Yeah.